Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Monday, it's February 17th, and today is day 500. I wanted to highlight before I begin at the encouragement of Fael, who works with me on these daily videos, but also to myself, just what it means that this is 500 days. We've been doing these updates every single day, the last 500 days since October 7th of 2023, and the attacks by Hamas on the south of Israel that killed nearly 1,200 people and resulted in about 250 others, some dead and some alive, being taken captive as hostages back into Gaza. 500 days of nearly daily bombing and the basic life-needed support of food, health supplies, nourishment being cut off from the majority of civilians in Gaza. 2 million people who saw the consequences of some of the worst destruction we've seen in modern history. The bombing campaign that resulted in the death of more than 50,000 people. Now the death toll, more than 60,000 we're being told, with more than 13,000 children being killed. 500 days, and we haven't stopped working on these updates. We seek to use them as a way to be faithful to God, a way to respond to the needs of common humanity, people in Gaza, Palestinian brothers and sisters, people in Israel. We want people to use them as a way to pray. We seek to curate the news from Arab sources, Israeli sources, from US government sources, from multiple narratives, seeking to organize, trying to understand ourselves, trying to explain them to others in ways that might be easily understood as much as we're able to with the limited information we're able to obtain. While the work is not easy, it's also mentally and spiritually draining, and it breaks our hearts. Even still, 500 days in. And it's all being done on top of the other work that we're doing at Churches for Middle East Peace. But we're doing it because the work is so critically important. And we seek to bear witness, not only to each and every life lost, but also for all of those who are still seeking to live and fighting for peace, and for a just solution and an alternative way forward to violence. We're seeking to be faithful to God, but also to try to provide resources to those who want alternatives, multi-narrative perspectives. We've had consultants suggest the possibility that we should try to monetize these or to try to make them more sustainable. And we don't want to do that. We want the news to be free for all. So and we're so grateful. Many of you are our donors and supporters. And if you're able to donate even small amounts, that's so greatly appreciated. So consider becoming a monthly donor. Consider making a donation if you're able. It's greatly needed. We seek to be good stewards of that. It's a hard ask at this time where there's so much uncertainty, when I know many jobs are on the line and there's so much need for protection. I also wanted to take a moment to say, why do we keep going? The ceasefire is tenuous, and the violence has to be stopped. We have to have alternatives, ways forward. And many people don't realize that the things happening on the ground in the occupied West Bank are worse now than they have been. And it's not all that different in many ways than it has been in Gaza. It's being called the silent war because so much is happening there that's not reported. And heck, people in Gaza still fear the violence because it's continuing to happen there too. So we don't want people to stop paying attention, and we can't stop paying attention, and we can't stop working diligently for a comprehensive and permanent solution. So today is Monday, it's day 500, and there are a lot of updates that have occurred over the weekend and in the last 24 hours, not the least of which the defense minister in Israel, Katz, announced that Israel is establishing a special administration to advance, quote, voluntary emigration of residents of the Gaza Strip. Quote, the plan includes extensive assistance that will allow any residents of Gaza who wish to voluntarily emigrate to a third country to receive an envelope that includes, among other things, a special exit arrangement by sea, air, or land. This was a statement put out by the Israeli administration. The uncle of freed hostage Ofer Calderon said that a few months before his release, when it realized that he would be one of the hostages released, he weighed less than 25 kilograms. And so his captors realized, and they started to stuff him with food. That was an announcement by the uncle of the freed hostage. Israel has expected to receive 4 hostages' bodies from Hamas this Thursday. This is a part of the first stage of the agreement. Hamas will return 4 more next week. This is in addition to 3 additional living hostages who are set to be released this coming Saturday. Israel is pushing for additional hostages to be freed as well. The cabinet of Israel met the security cabinet this evening, Monday, discussing the second phase of the hostage agreement. Earlier, a delegation flew to Cairo to discuss the possibilities and continuation of the first phase. Netanyahu's office is hoping that there could be an extension of the first phase, and the delegation will only receive instructions related to the second phase following the cabinet meeting that happened tonight. In addition, expediting the release of additional hostages is a part of the goal. This is following the success that Israel had, which was an extraordinary release, including Arbel Yehud, Agam Berger, and Gadi Moses. And it fueled hope among Israeli officials that there could be additional releases that were not initially negotiated in this first phase. Under the current framework, 14 remaining hostages are set to be released in the first phase, with Hamas claiming that 6 of them are alive. The release on Thursday does not extend the first phase. 8 bodies are set to be returned. Of the 12 hostages remaining in the first phase, 10 were taken on October 7th, while 2, Hasham al-Sayed and Avera Mengistu, were said to have been held in Gaza for over 10 years. A public government decision stipulated that living hostages should be returned before bodies, but Israeli sources said that this release on Thursday is a part of the original deal, and it was a part of a confidential annex to the original agreement. The bodies are said to be slated to take place on day 42 of the ceasefire negotiations. Military sources have said that the IDF is preparing 4 additional divisions in case stage 2 of the deal does fall through. A total of 4 divisions are being prepared. And in addition, today, the IDF said that it fired warning shots at suspicious vehicles in Gaza, calling on Palestinians to pass through the ceasefire's agreed upon routes. The Air Force fired warning shots on vehicles traveling north from the central Gaza Strip on a route that was not approved for vehicle traffic and without passing through the checkpoint route, according to the IDF. Marco Rubio today kicked off his first Middle East tour as Secretary of State with strong support for Israel and stern warnings to Iran as the region bristles from President Trump's proposal to own Gaza and to evict its Palestinian population. In the past 2 weeks, Trump has suggested that Palestinians prefer to remain in Gaza only because they don't know anything else and have never had an alternative. But Ghassan Salem, who was born and raised in the Strip, says that leaving is not a choice he would ever consider. And Washington Post staffers have said that they followed a trip of Salem back home into North Gaza, where he said he will stay even amid all the destruction and the rubble. The land of Gaza contains my life, my memories, and my everything, he said. U.S. senators from both parties have criticized Trump's plan to take over Gaza. There's a congressional delegation that's been in Israel. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said there's very little appetite in the U.S. Senate for the U.S. to take over any of Gaza in any way, shape, or form. He added that Israeli officials have indicated their support, allowing Palestinians to leave voluntarily, but have emphasized that there will be no forced expulsions. Democratic Senator Blumenthal called Trump's proposal not a plan, a non-starter, a hot mess. He noted King Abdullah's convinced me that the Arab states will have a plan that is realistic, further stating that the Arab proposal could be a game changer for the region. In Israel, thousands of Israelis have held a rally marking 500 days since the October 7th massacres. The mother of the American-Israeli hostage, Eden Alexander, emphasized the urgency of returning all hostages in a comprehensive and sequential deal. Over 1,000 protested in front of the prime minister's residence, Netanyahu's, and the late hostage Carmel Gatz's cousin said, "My story is over, but we have 73 brothers still waiting." A protest outside of the residence that gathered more than 1,000 people who marked the 500 days told the crowd that continuing the war will endanger the remaining hostages. The Prime Minister's spokesperson said that the Palestinian Authority will not have control over the Gaza Strip and that it just is not going to happen, in response to a report saying that Hamas is willing to transfer control of the Gaza Strip over to the Palestinian Authority. The far-right finance minister Smotrich has urged Prime Minister Netanyahu to declare that upon return to the war, which he said will take place after stage 1, Israel would annex 10% of the Gaza Strip. Smotrich claimed that this demand was in line with President Trump's Gaza plan, despite Trump not having mentioned annexation or military occupation. Smotrich said that the term gates of hell includes the complete military occupation of the Strip and the failure to bring humanitarian aid into the territory, including the supply of water, electricity, and fuel. Moreover, it included annexing the northern Strip, the ridge that dominates Sderot and the surrounding settlements, and the security buffer zone, including the Philadelphia corridor. Smotrich threatened to move the entire population to Mawasi and Gaza, from where he said Israel will immediately begin emigrating Gazan residents to other countries. Unlike the prime minister, who said last night that Gazans who want to leave the Strip would do so voluntarily, Smotrich did not use the term voluntary immigration and repeated the proposal that Israel inform Hamas that every hair that falls from the heads of the hostages will lead to Israel occupying an additional 5% of the Gaza Strip. Peace Now, an Israeli human rights organization, said that the development of 974 new housing units would allow for the population of the Efrat settlement, which is near Bethlehem, to expand by 40%. This is in the occupied West Bank, and that it would further block the development of the nearby Palestinian city of Bethlehem. In Israel proper, 6 Arab Israelis have been murdered in the last 24 hours, including a doctor who was shot at a children's medical clinic. The doctor was in his 30s. He was shot dead at a medical clinic in Kafr Yassif in northern Israel today. This was the 6th murder in 24 hours. Unknown assailants broke in also to a family residence in the central city of Lod. Earlier today, they shot and killed a 14-year-old boy, seriously wounding a man in his 30s and moderately injuring a woman in her 40s. Also today, a man in his 40s was stabbed to death by his former brother-in-law in the village of Abu Ghosh near Jerusalem. The emergency Arab summit in Cairo is going to be postponed by a week, Palestinian sources have told Haaretz. This was scheduled to be at the end of February on the 27th. This will now happen during the month of Ramadan. This is the summit that is scheduled to address the issues of an economic safety net for Egypt and Jordan in light of President Trump's threats if they are not willing to accept residents who might be displaced from the Gaza Strip related to President Trump's plan. Moving on to Lebanon, Hezbollah and Israel's ceasefire. One person was killed in an IDF drone strike in South Lebanon in the last 24 hours. And the head of the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah warned the IDF they must withdraw from the Lebanese territory in full by the 18th of February, and the Lebanese government approved a resolution calling for the disarmament of Hezbollah, saying that only the state would be allowed to possess weapons. The resolution effectively calls for the application of the UN Security Council Resolution 1701. Israeli forces are expected to withdraw from South Lebanon starting this evening, though they will maintain a presence at 5 posts across the border near the northern tip of Galilee. This decision comes despite the fact that the deadline for full withdrawal is set for tomorrow, Tuesday. This move was coordinated with the United States, but the U.S. is pushing for Israel to pull out from the remaining 5 positions soon, arguing that doing so would not hinder its ability to conduct aerial strikes against Hezbollah targets in the region. In regard to Iran, senior Iranian officials say they will retaliate in due time to Israel's attacks, according to a senior official of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. He reported that today on Monday, and the Israeli foreign minister said that there are worrying developments in terms of the Iranian nuclear project. They stem from Iran wanting to compensate for its weakened regional influence by obtaining nuclear weapons. This was stated in a meeting with U.S. senators in the foreign minister Gideon Sa'ar's office with U.S. senators in Jerusalem today. So that's an update on this 500th day since October 7th of 2023. May God go before us as we seek to follow the Prince of Peace and to pursue peace and justice. May the Lord go before us. In the name of Christ. Amen.